He's most certainly going to be available this weekend. Will Mozart improving fast. I think he's probable. Griffin Empey is interesting. He could probably go and play and fight through it and not be himself. I think he's doubtful. Oscar Benson's out. Collins is steadily and functionally, moving in the right direction that I think he would be available. Right now he's probable. Tony Shadaimi Alfaro, is probable. Sam Young had surgery today. Cole Payton had surgery today. I haven't had a chance to check with him. Devin said Sam was doing great. And Cole Wisniewski, his progress and his running progression and things like that will kind of pick up here this week. We'll have a little bit better feel for where this thing could go and our game plan moving forward. I thought it was impressive down at Murray State, to be +5 in the turnover ratio. Just really, really, critical plays that put us on a short field. But when you look at them, it was kind of neat to see young guys were at the point of attack there. The safety, Darius, with the pick. I'm sorry. Jaquise with a pick. Toby had a strip. Wirtz has a strip, and Alta Peter picks it up, and Will Stile is Johnny on the spot on his fumble recovery. I thought that was really key. Defensively, though, we still need to respond a little bit quicker if they're going to play fast, and then some of the nuances of some things that they gave us. I thought we worked through it just fine, but I'd like to see that happen quicker, maybe even within a series, have a little bit better answers there. We're currently, +14 guys right now in the turnover margin. And I know Mike asked a great question 2 weeks ago prior to South Dakota State. Those things are just the difference in tight ball games. And I know last week wasn't, but the previous week was, and that puts us number 1 in the country. We're 16 takeaways, and we have 2 turnovers, I believe, just a slight underthrow, INT, and then some bad ball handling on the fumble at Southern Illinois. Offensively, down at Murray State, we were efficient, guys. It was really clean. Led to some touchdowns and some big plays. And again, I thought Nathan, he really did. He went in there and for a first-year guy, we take for granted around here a little bit, like he operated the offense. There was no missed snaps. There was no communication issues, the wrong play ran, the wrong wristband. That's big time for a guy to go in there in the first time that he's playing, a quarter, 2 quarters and a half. Special teams was very uneventful until it was, late in the game with the 2 block punts. Bottom line, a bunch of guys that haven't played together. A really poor decision by the guy calling the shots on the punt team that led to some real opportunity for Murray State. And then the second one, just a fundamental breakdown that we jumped on last night, so that's been addressed. I'm going to be brief with Northern Iowa here. It's a program that I have a lot of respect for a lot of reasons. I think about game winners. I think about losses, but I think about physical, just absolute battles and wars. When I think about Coach Farley and his football teams, these guys will be ready to go. This week's all about our week of preparation. I'll open up for questions.
With the turnover margin there, what's more impressive about that to you, the defensive takeaways or how well the offense is taking care of the ball this year?
I would want to see the takeaways first. As an offensive guy, Josh Jackson had a huge year for us at Iowa one year. And I went back and looked at those picks and said, man, this kid is a really good corner and stuff. But, I think 6 of his 9 interceptions, it was bad offense. But I do think the strips and being active on the ball and finding the ball and picking it up we've improved. And the guys have worked hard at it. We're going to circle back to that as soon as we can, to reemphasize those drills and the circuits. But both are equally as important. You have to learn how to not beat yourself in order to be really good. And so taking care of the ball and only turning it over twice is a really big deal. But I'm have an offensive background. I just know you can't have that kind of margin without both areas being secured.
Getting Cole a little bit more involved, kind of seeing where he's at right now. How do you go about reintroducing somebody to the team?
Trish and the medical are all over that. And then Jim Craner. Once Kramer gets, here's how I work. Once Kramer gets introduced to it, I now know it's leaning towards the football perspective, meaning that he can get on the grass and run, and Jim can take him through patterns, or what we call as patterns, football functional movements, in a build-up to that. How many sets can he do? And we got to get his conditioning, but the foot's got to feel good. And then the most important thing with this is just that the swelling don't keep reoccurring after a workout.
Do you know that Cole is going to play if he can? Because of he has some decisions to make and everything else. And
no, Cole, he really doesn't have any decisions to make because he actually has a red shirt available to him. Last year, the rule changed in FCS, 4 games and the playoffs. Prior to that, FBS had changed. Okay, I think in 22, Cole played 8 games. And so, therefore, he has a red shirt available to him, period. And then the gift of regular season plus playoffs. And I think his mindset, I've gathered a lot of information on the side once we go through the reports with some scouts that I really trust, and I trust a lot of them. And they really are eager to see him play more football before making a final. And I think Cole is really, really comfortable with that. I'd like to have one more conversation with him. Let's best case scenario. And he plays against Missouri State and he runs it out. Like, what do you want to do now? We haven't talked about that, but I know he's very eager to come back next year as of now.
Coach, with all the injuries that you guys have had and younger players getting, reps, what growth have you seen from your roster so far?
When I said I was excited about some of the guys getting to play last week, I was really sincere about that. And as coaches, right, like, we're messed up. Like, we can't get off of a one-game mentality. But I can't help to think, okay, where are our holes 3 years from now? What do we have to try to fix or guard against in recruiting not only high school kids, but are there 2 or 3, portal-type options? And so all of it. And so when young guys get reps and they perform well and coaches are eager to coach and they're eager to learn, that's a real positive for the program. And so I guess, you like it. You like the fact that some young guys are playing right now and we're still moving forward. We'll have to have a bigger sample size to know if there's been a drop-off here or there. I think Dylan Hendricks, those DNs, right, like they're going to have to play versus some tempo. I think that's a big one. I still really do, and I feel terrible for him, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Brown's been mentioned for some Jerry Rice Award stuff. Is that important to you? Do you think that's a big deal?
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on young guys getting recognized, but Marty was out there just running and practicing his butt off. I see a humble, hungry guy, so I don't worry about any of that stuff. And then I think anytime a skilled guy's getting recognized, it does say something about the way the O-line's operating. But for Marty, I'm just excited about his future and where he's at. A lot of that has to do with, the rushing touchdowns and things like that. And I think Marty still thinks his best run or 2 or 3 is still out there. And so I really like where we're at. And anytime our kids are getting acknowledged, nationally for national awards, I think it's a big deal, Jeff.
For Nathan to get the kind of reps that he got, especially against a conference opponent, how important was that for him, especially at this kind of point? As you mentioned, you're kind of looking ahead a little bit as far as the roster goes.
Yeah, just like I've never driven a race car and I won't want to. But to play quarterback, like, practice is one thing. And to be really skilled or to be really talented is one thing, but to go out there and function and manage the offense and at times have to direct 5 linemen to where you need them, those are big deals. And so every game rep, and I was really happy we got him in there. Randy made a great call. Like, Tim, I just want to get him in there. And I said, I agree, let's go. To get him in the game that early, he had to at least have some anxiety and some butterflies. Like, this thing, we'd like to score a couple more, 2-3 times. And so I think he handles it really well. I like his demeanor. He's a competitor. There's a fire burning, and I think he's learning how to prepare. I mean, we started way back when Carson started. It's just such a great tradition of bringing all the quarterbacks in early in the morning. Now it's like the regular thing. Guys, that doesn't happen everywhere, and he's got a really good example in Cam and Cole to follow as far as preparation.
Jack Lewinsky got his first start. I know he's a guy you kept your eyes on for a while since you got here. How'd that grade out from what you saw?
I don't know how he graded out, but I kind of said the same thing a week ago about those guys. Aggressive and fast to assignment is important, right? There wasn't much hesitancy. I think it's one of those deals where rhythm and timing and combinations wasn't great. He still has to be more aware of what kind of combination are we in with the concept that we're in. So just detailing it out, but same thing. Like, the more game reps or the more real live action reps he can get against good people, he is a good player. He'll be a good player.
Well, what right that playing out?
Yeah, I think Bo, and I was really, on the flip side, I'm excited the way that Bo gave up the sack. He didn't get beat fundamentally, he didn't get beat technique, but Tony Weiss told me a long time ago, the old O-line coach for the Cowboys when they were rolling. He said, pass pro is about effort and finishing too. I mean, he ran them all the way around the pocket. We happened to step up into maybe the wrong gap or step up and not deliver the ball and give up a sack, you got to block forever. It's a 3-second ride. That's the rhythm and tempo we're coaching, but it's your quarterback. Protect him for as long as it takes. Bo played pretty good, and there's a lot of good stuff on tape there.
Williams is a guy that, we've talked about him returning kicks all year. What do you like from him as a receiver? He obviously got a good amount of reps this week.
Yeah. His opportunities, there hasn't been as many maybe as opportunities with the ball to get the ball as I would think we'd be at with the amount of injuries we've had. But I think that just comes from the balance that we have with all of our personnel groupings and all of the situations that you face. And it's not like we're trying to go out there and throw it 50 times. Jackson continues to get better in the receiver room. He practices well. I would not have made the decision to have him be a punt returner if I didn't think it was going to help him next year be a formidable starter. And when I say starter at North Dakota State, that means you're challenging for all conference. This kid's got a really, really bright future. It's just a matter of opportunities and the ball coming to him. He probably has to detail his stuff a little bit better. And then I would still say against a really good player, get better versus press coverage, which will come with an offseason of strength and conditioning.
I feel like I've asked this 10 times, but if Raja is probable, does that mean that 4-game thought is out the window, or is that still part of it?
No, I think we can dive into Raja a little bit. I think I don't think he'll play this week. When a push comes to shove, I just think the leg itself, I think he'll be suited the rest of the way up, and then we're just going to have to look at each other with the game plan in mind, and if there's something that pops up, it's time to go. It's a little bit like Darius Shepard when we beat Northern, Iowa on the 2-minute drive. That's how I started the week watching. I had to watch it again. That thing was worse and harder than I thought it was. We get a completion, we get a holding call, it goes to 2nd and 20. The next thing you know, it's 3rd and 23 or whatever, and we get a completion, and then Zach Vraw on a field throw. I brought Derek Lukin, and I said, "You want to see a throw? This is a throw. It's a man's throw." And we hit that drive, but we held Shep out of the first half there just thinking it was going to be tight, and then he makes the play of the year on the game winner.
I guess off of that, is this Northern Iowa team, when you look, is there any semblance to the ones you remember?
Well, the running backs are really good and really productive. They've gone this way and that way at quarterback a little bit. It seems like they're working through that. I probably respect their pass game and the completions that they have. I respect the things that they're trying to do. I think they're really sound and solid. It's just about execution for them. And I think Coach would say they just have to be a little bit cleaner in their execution. But anytime, I just think about toughness and striking and physicality when I think about these guys. And then the other thing I think about is just athletes, long athletes, and there's enough there. This is a good 2-7 or 2-6 football team. There's just no doubt about it, and they're totally capable. They ran the ball at times pretty effectively against South Dakota State. I'm not sure. I don't want to answer questions for them. They're a good 2-7 team, and we've got plenty that has our attention, right? The injury stuff. I think everybody wants to go play great. We want to prepare great, and we have to get to this bye, hopefully, knock on wood, as healthy as possible so we can get our cleats up underneath us.
Fun were those games back in the old days against these guys, though. Don and I were talking this morning about recounting 15, 14, when there was the fight along the sidelines, and you were breaking that up in 09, 02, whatever. Those games were great.
Jose Oler throwing a Hail Mary, and we actually had a shot. What year was that? Was that 9? 10. That was 10 down there. We were very conscious. Coach Bull was very conscious of recruiting and how he wanted to do it. And I thought he learned real fast who the competition was down in the Twin Cities at that time. And they had just such a stronghold on that next tier guy. It was so fun because they had a dome at that time. I thought their environments were good. In 14, that was a tough environment. Carson was battling an ankle that day. Unbelievably competitive and unbelievably physical in just two teams that lined up and just played. And I've always respected them defensively. They don't try to do too much. They always have a wrinkle here or there with their front, but man, they just line up and play. A blast. That's kind of, I remember we had to catch those guys. At some way, shape, or form, we were going to need to look like these guys. We were going to need to be big and strong and fast like these in order to win a Missouri Valley Conference Championship. People don't talk about that enough, but we had to catch Northern Iowa first. And then kind of we established what we established, and here we go.
Coach, you guys had Kubitz back out there, how important is it this linebacking group, be at its best when you're facing teams that have big tight ends?
Based on how they play, I don't know, but I know special teams. It just every injury, guys, causes a ripple effect into the special teams. And at some point, we're going to have to cover kicks. If we're in a wind situation or whatever, right? I don't think Murray State even practiced kick return, and I don't blame them, right? But we didn't have to cover those short kicks into the wind this week. Right now, we've got enough depth that we can put different combinations out there and play ball. So I love where our depth is at. I like when we're fully healthy because then here we go, right? And special teams are firm. Nick Kubis is one of the best special teams players in our league, and I would think that would carry over nationally because of his length, his range, his experience. He's hard to block. He can block. And so with all those different injuries, just special teams get stretched. That's why it's important.
Last day before the bye, you mentioned trying to get there and get your cleats under you. Kind of what have you seen from the group in this long stretch leading up to this? Especially you mentioned the rivalry row last week and then all the injuries that you guys had to deal with. What have you seen from this group?
I've seen growth. I've seen togetherness. And I've seen a bunch of guys that say, hey, Coach P is trying to take care of us. This staff is mindful of our legs. We went 10 periods last night instead of 12. And all they did was went out there and there was a lot of connection. There was a lot of enthusiasm. And I grabbed Derek. Me and Derek spent a little time at practice together. I said, these guys can do this for another 12 weeks. And I said, it's what it's all about. And I know I talked about this in my previous schools so much to those guys, we practice great. We practice great. Guys, this game is all about preparation and practicing great so you can earn the right to play free and fast. And that's kind of what I've seen is they're acknowledging last Monday, okay, Coach, we got you. They're acknowledging, we're a senior-led group. We're a player-led group. Those are things that make me happy for them because this is going to be their story and their legacy.
First rankings come out tomorrow for the playoffs. Is something to keep an eye on of where things are at?
I don't know if I pay attention to it, but I follow you guys, so whatever gets put out there, I kind of see. I didn't even know that we were ranked number one until someone had mentioned it or whatever. So I don't pay attention to a lot of that. I think we're embarking on goal number one, which was to establish home field advantage. And it's very important that we defend the Dome this weekend. It's very important that the people show up and add value. They're inspiring for us. They make a difference in the game. But we're starting to get to the point now where we're going to turn the page, okay, because preseason, rivalry row, and then November. You'll remember November because it's all about positioning yourself, whether it's bowl games or home field advantage, and I think that's going to be critical. In fact, I notice Montana State has a great environment. South Dakota State has a great environment. South Dakota has a good environment. It matters playing at home, and I think we're getting ready to embark on, guys, the cost of poker is going up here, and we need to respect all these opportunities. All right, guys, have a good afternoon.